All right, welcome back. We are ACI Course 8, Death in the Realms of Existence, Class 1, March 23, 2025. I applaud you all being here. To be honest, I know many people who something comes up and ACI 8 is not attractive enough to show up. So thank you for being here. It's an important class, obviously. So let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible, that it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. Then turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, Please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers, the great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. All right. So in the sequence that we've been working through our ACI Foundation courses, we finally met the perfection of wisdom with the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And the Diamond Cutter Sutra was asking the Bodhisattva's question, what's a Bodhisattva to do? Like, how are we supposed to live? How are we supposed to keep our thoughts? And if you recall, Lord Buddha said, a Bodhisattva sets out to bring to nirvana all sentient beings, those born from a womb, born from an egg, born from warmth and moisture, born miraculously, those with conceptions, those with no conceptions, those with both conceptions and no conceptions, all those living beings. I, the Bodhisattva, will bring to their nirvana. And when I bring all those beings to their nirvana, there will be no beings whatsoever that I have brought to their total nirvana. And then, like, the parentheses is, which is why I can bring them to nirvana. And the punchline of Diamond Cutter's Sutra is learning what that phrase means. Because there's no being that can be brought to nirvana, I can, in fact, bring beings to nirvana. So we got through that. And then ACI Course 7 was Bodhisattva vows. Do you see the connection? Like, oh, I understand now how it is that I could, in fact, help others reach nirvana when there's no others that can be brought to nirvana, which is why I can bring beings to nirvana. Gosh, maybe I really could do the Bodhisattva track. And we might have been inspired after Diamond Cutter's Sutra to think, well, okay, I can be a Bodhisattva. And we then learned that course about what it is to have the wish to be a Bodhisattva as one thing. and then what it is to act on that wish, which means I'm going to actually train myself in these new behaviors, which are really not new behaviors so much as attitudes, new attitude to have while I'm doing certain behaviors. And with that new attitude, I won't do the old behaviors and I will do the new behaviors, and learning the new attitude. And we learned about the vows. We learned what the vows are, the exceptions to keeping them, not keeping them, what we do when we damage them, how we restore them, right? We learned the details about vows, hopefully inspiring us to at least want to declare ourselves on the path to growing our wish. And then if we were already there, determining at some point, well, I think I'm ready to actually step onto the path of my bodhisattvahood by requesting and getting my vows. So the connection between those two courses makes sense. Now course A is called Death in the Realms of Existence. And it's all about suffering. It's suffering and more suffering. And I've had students say, I can't finish this class. I can't do the homeworks and quizzes because I can't bring myself to review the material and to learn it. It's like, it's too harsh. It's suffering, right? And so it's like, why? It's a good thing course 8 wasn't the first course, right? First course. It's like, there'd be no ACI foundation courses. Nobody would stay. And here it is sort of in the middle. And like, I remember when I was going through these the first time, I didn't really stop to try to figure out why. It wasn't until I'd shared them a couple of times through, it's like, why this order? And then it became really, really clear to me that when we've decided I'm going to be the bodhisattva and I am going to bring all sentient beings to their total enlightenment, I would want to know what all sentient beings I'm talking about, wouldn't I? Because my initial blush of bodhisattva wannabe, if I only believe that there's humans and animals as the suffering beings that I'll be responsible for, and we go, yeah, okay, I'm on to that. I can take care of all humans and all animals. If that's the extent of our bodhicitta, it's this big, it's puny compared to all the beings there are who are suffering, who need help. And I don't know, my own mind still questions. It's like, well, wait a minute. If I didn't know about them until you told me about them, then they weren't suffering beings in my world for me. Why didn't you just leave me blissfully unaware of hell beings, hungry ghosts, jealous gods, pleasure beings, bardo beings, form realm, and formless realm beings? Why didn't you just leave me not knowing about them? Because if they're nothing but my seeds ripening and I don't know about them, then I can't ripen them. So they aren't a them for me to save. You're doing me a disservice to teach me about all these different beings. But that argument is pushed by believing that this me and this me's experience with what other beings there are is the whole picture for this me. Like, just because this me hasn't directly experienced a hell being doesn't mean the me that is the mind stream hasn't experienced hell beings. And it does not necessarily mean the me that is this mind stream hasn't made the karmic seeds that if any one of those were to ripen at the moment of death, could become my reality of being a being who's beating others and being beaten as their entire existence. Just because we don't know about it doesn't mean that our seed planting of anger, hatred, cruelty, violence couldn't ripen as that. So it's like, okay, that argument makes sense from a ignorant, limited perspective. And when we see, no, I would want to know about any possible existence that any seed that I plant, even just in this life, could ripen into me experiencing myself as, I would want to know about that so that I cannot make those seeds. And if I have them, so that I can know what to purify. And then in the process of learning that, we learn, oh my gosh, there are these other realities that we as limited humans can't access with our sense powers, but who do exist. And to exclude them from our wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings means that we cannot reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, because what we mean by all sentient beings does not include them all. So this course, it is about suffering to help our motivation, help open our hearts. And more so, it's about the beings who are suffering in those ways in order to help grow our hearts. And it's also about what seeds I want to not make so that I myself won't land in one of those other realms. Okay, so it's really, it's a multi-layered set of classes teaching on all those different levels all at the same time. And it'll be my job to try to convey that. Anyway, okay, I'm on it. But don't be surprised if you partway through, it's like, I'm looking for reasons to miss class because it's just like so harsh. But please don't give in to that. Keep coming. All right. Death in the realms of existence. Here we go. This first class is, we will learn about the desire realm and the form realms. There's nobody new. Okay. The text we are going to use mostly is the Abhidharma Kosha. Let's get our share going here. Treasure House of Higher Knowledge. We've already studied it a little bit. Vocabulary. And translator group, they're working on it, with some side trips into other ones. There we go. Abhidharma Kosha, written as we know by Master Acharya Vasubandhu, 350 AD. In Tibetan, he's called Yikyen. It's hard to say, Yikyen. So Geshe-la always uses Vasubandhu. It's easier to say, I guess. It's one of the oldest books in the lexicon of Buddhist literature. It's from the perspective of what's called the Vaibhashika school. I'm not sure I've got that spelled right. It's the Sanskrit word detailist. And in Tibetan, Abhidharma Kosha is Chu Numpa Zu. So Chu means Dharma, also means all existing thing. The Chu Numpa Zu means this treasury of the highest of existing things, which is how it gets the name Treasure House of Higher Knowledge. Ken Rinpoche apparently taught it to his group in how over many, many years, using a commentary that had been written by the person that's called the first Dalai Lama, who was one of the students of Jetsun Kappa, but not the two main ones. Right, so he had Kedrub J and Gyaltsab J, the ones we're familiar with, but he had this third that was also extraordinary and a little bit more in the background. He goes on to get recognized as being this master manifestation of Chenrezig, who then reincarnates again and is given the position of being the spiritual and secular head of Tibet. He was an incredible teacher in his own right. So the Abhidharma Kosha it's concise, covering all of Buddhism in that term, a nutshell, all of Buddhism in a nutshell. It's not a nutshell, it's a long book. Like we have a copy of an early translation of it, and it's like 4 or 5 volumes, of several hundred pages each. And it's one of those kind of texts that when you're in the right frame of mind, you can open up and read it and like, wow, wow, wow. And when you're not in the right frame of mind and you open up and read it, it's like, those are English words, but I don't know. It just, I can't get it. So its first chapter is about parts of the person and mind, that relationship. Its second chapter is about the energies within what we call the self. The third chapter is all the details of the universe, of time, of space, of creation. That's the chapter we'll be studying for this whole course, chapter 3. Chapter 4 goes into the details of karma. Lele Jikten, that's okay, right? And Geshe-la says it's the best presentation of karma ever, even still. The 5th chapter is about mental afflictions. Also, according to Geshe-la, one of the best presentations on this subject, this topic of consideration, mental afflictions. And then chapter 6 and onward cover meditation, how to liberate oneself, various practices. It's studied for a number of years in the monastery. And as I say, we will delve into chapter 3 and into the details of existing things, mostly focusing on the existing beings in this world, our suffering world. According to Buddhism, existence is made up of 3 realms: the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. which doesn't mean no form at all, but meaning the most subtle form realm. As humans, most of us only perceive two small parts of the desire realm out of all of the desire realm, out of all of the form realm and all of the formless realm. Our perception of our reality is like really minuscule. So this course, class 1, will be about the desire realm and the form realm. Class 2 will study formless realm and rebirth. Class 3 will study the lives of animals and craving spirits, also called hungry ghosts. That class will have a different text that we'll be studying from. It will come from a text called the Tenrim Chenmo, which was the text that inspired Jetsun Kappa to write his Lamrim Chenmo, we'll learn. Class 4 will study the lives of humans and pleasure beings. And for that information, we will use a text by the first Panchen Lama, Lobsang Chuki Gyaltsen, a lamrim called Dalam, or Path to Bliss. Maybe some of you have studied that recently. And a commentary on that from someone named Nulcha Dharmabhadra. Then class 5, we'll learn about the intermediate state, the bardo. There isn't much taught about bardo in the open teachings. The details of it we find in the secret teachings, both creation stage, but more so completion stage. But in the Abhidharma Kosha, it goes into the topic and actually proves the existence of bardo beings, and it's helpful. It's helpful to see that proof. Then class 6 is a class on what's called the kinds of sustenance. What keeps us alive in this life? And then within that, we learned this general description of our world, where it comes from, and how it will be destroyed someday. Right? What sustains us, and when what sustains us comes to an end, what happens? Now, class 7 is the hell realms. Class 8 is a discussion of time and space, a description of time and space. And it goes into how and why and when Buddhas appear in a world. And then classes 9 and 10 are the classes where Jetsun Kappa will teach us the detailed descriptions of the meditation on a death practice that some of us have already learned from the practice module, Death and the End of Death, those 9 principles of a death practice, not so that our dying can be, well, not so that, what am I trying to say? Not just to encourage us to be not so afraid of dying, but to inspire are living by way of a keen understanding of what it is to die and how close we are to it at any given moment, and how to use that to inspire our moment by moment interaction with other beings. So it'll take us 2 classes to cover that material. And then, of course, class 11, our review, where you will teach it all to me. Okay. So when Geshe-la was first teaching this course, which must have been the 95 or 6 or 7 time frame, 1995 or 6 or 7, I'm not sure the dates. He started this course very shortly after he had completed his debates for his Geshe degree. So all the courses up to this, he was still in the process of earning his Geshe degree. So it was pretty brilliant that he was teaching the material to others that he was learning in order to pass his debates, in order to get his Geshe degree. Like, do we do that when we're in our senior year of college, bearing down on our final degree? Do we go out and find somebody we can teach what we're learning to in order to improve our chances of doing well on all of our final exams? Interesting. So he said then that there's nothing in the ACI courses, right, the ones that had happened up to date, that there was nothing in them that was not included in the questions of the debates that he had undergone to get his degree. And of course, as he designed the classes going forward, he kept that same theme going on. So the homeworks and the quizzes, quizzes come from homeworks. Homeworks come from class and the reading. Final comes from quizzes. It's all the material that's most important. Excuse me. And then the meditations are the topics for which having an aha about will increase the depth of our understanding of the material that led into that particular meditation. So we don't need to figure out that connection between all of those things. To understand that the homeworks and quizzes are very intentionally made by Geshe Michael, and the meditations are very intentionally chosen for our benefit so that our practice builds. And I remember those meditations, it's like, some of them didn't seem so important to do. And then after I saw the whole big picture and looked back, I went back one day and I wrote out all the meditations. So I had them all on a list. And I looked at them and I remember seeing, oh, there's a pattern here that you really can't see till you look back. But I guess I'm sharing it to ask you to trust the process, that it was designed not by me, by someone who's seen what beings need. So it's really exquisite that we have access to this full foundational material so that it can be passed on in a way that is complete. All right. So again, I will share the Tibetan pronunciation words to help us all plant seeds in our minds. I dedicate it that for you, they all ripen to someday be able to look at those words on mixed nuts and read them and know what they mean. Okay, it's one thing to read them. It's another to be able to understand them. So we're planting those seeds in these classes. So try. So already we did shu numpa zu. Shu means existing thing. Numpa means high or highest. Zu means treasure house. So the treasure house of highest things. Written by Master Vasubandhu, half brother to Master Asanga. Between those two, we get half of the textbooks for the Saramay Monastery. But when we read the Chunumpadzu over my head, and so we go to a commentary. The commentary is called Tarlam Salje. Please say Tarlam Salje. Tar means freedom. Tarpa is the word in Tibetan. Moksha in Sanskrit. I didn't write moksha. Is the Sanskrit for liberation. Lam means path, meaning realization, meaning what we do to get the realization, but really meaning the realization. And Selje means that which makes clear, in the sense of like you turn the light on, you're in a dark room and you turn on the light, and the light makes clear what's in the room. So it's not the word for cleaning a window, right, so that you can look out. I think that's a different word. I'm not sure. But this Selje is like you illuminate something. So the text is translated as illumination of the path to freedom. It's a commentary on Abhidharma Kosha. So it's implying that Abhidharma Kosha is a path to freedom, and to illuminate, right, what's in it will help us on our path to freedom. It's a bit curious because, wait, we finally met the middle way in ACI 6, have prepared ourselves to live by it with ACI 7, and now we're learning from Abhidharma Kosha, which is a lower capacity text. What's up with that? And yet again, it's like, is it really a lower capacity text? Is it the foundational material that anybody needs in order for their own personal level of practice to be lesser or higher? Someone who starts out on the Mahayana track because of great seeds that they brought into this lifetime still would study Abhidharma Kosha in order to learn all those details. Now, very likely, because they would have studied it before in past lives, they would catch on quickly. And it doesn't mean that if we don't catch on quickly, we don't have good seeds. But my point is, we're not going backwards in our ACI training. We're growing our foundation for our Bodhisattva way of life to be stronger, to be bigger. As we plant our seeds, knowing ACI Course A, we're planting our seeds to include the benefit for all sentient beings. All has now become bigger. because of our study. So Geshe-la pointed out that, okay, I'm sorry. So this Tarlam Selje, Illumination on the Path to Freedom, commentary on Abhidharma Kosha, is this text written by His Holiness the First Panchen Lama. He's called Gelwa Gendin Drup. Gelwa is the title. It means victorious one. Gendin Drup is his name. His dates 1391 to 1474. The term Gelwa or Gelwa Rinpoche is what the Tibetans call the Dalai Lama. The term Dalai Lama is actually a Mongolian term. And so his own people don't call him that. He also gets called Kundun. If you saw the movie, right? They called him Kundun. The rest of us seem to call him Dalai Lama. Gendin Drup is this one who became the first one. But if I understand correctly, it wasn't until after this one, like he got the title posthumously when his reincarnation came back. And so the second Dalai Lama was actually the first one that was in that position. And then the one called First Panchen Lama, when he comes along later, he teaches the young man who is the fifth Dalai Lama. And because of First Panchen Lama's extraordinariness, that Tibet was going to him for the decisions that were being needed to be made in the interim between when the fourth Dalai Lama left and the fifth one got old enough to take charge. So it started this pattern of when Dalai Lama is not manifesting, somebody needs to run this show, they would go to the Panchen Lama. And then Panchen Lama may or may not be the one that teaches new Dalai Lama. But once new Dalai Lama is old enough to take over, first Panchen Lama steps away. By then they're an old man, right? Because there are these generational shifts. So this relationship between the Gelwas and the Panchen Lamas happened. Okay. So this is the first Dalai Lama who wrote this commentary to Abhidharma Kosha. With me? So he must have been extraordinary, is the point. Must have known what he's talking about. And yet, says Geshe Michael, don't believe any of what I say until you've checked it out yourself. Scripturally, logically, experientially. Maybe, I hope not, you'll have a direct experience. No, I'm not even going to say it, right? Direct experience of a pleasure being. There, I'll say that one. And with such conviction, because it's direct experience, that, you could tell 1,000 people and they all go, you're nuts, that can't possibly be. But it was your direct experience, right? It's like nobody can change your mind. Once you get on the bike and ride it, even if you never ride a bike again, you know what it's like. Okay. But barring direct experience, logic can help us gain the belief enough to choose our actions accordingly. And scriptural authority can be enough, but only once we've proved that scriptural authority is scriptural authority, which in my opinion is harder to do than, for me, it's harder to do than I thought. Probably we have the seeds of faith. That's why we're here. And seeds of faith can wear out. So we want to be sure that we reinforce them with logic, experience, and scripture. And we would like to be sure that we don't damage those seeds by doing a full-on reject of something that we hear. Right? So we've heard before, Lord Maitreya says, when you hear something that, you know, your heart or mind just goes, nah, like catch it fast and like suck the nah back inside and put that teaching on the shelf and say to yourself, whoa, that one's wild. I don't know, but I'm open to learning more about it. And then don't worry how long that takes. It's the automatic reject that we're wanting to be on the lookout for, and do our best to stop it in its track. All right. So those are the two texts that we'll be using for quite a bit of this course. And when we shift to a different one, I will tell you. All right. So next, our existence is made up of three realms, like three parts of our universe. One's called the desire realm. That's the one, if you're human, that's the one we're familiar with. Sukham means form realm. A realm of physical stuff. We have physical stuff. They have physical stuff. The form realm, though, is distinguished from the desire realm in the sense that the physical stuff in that realm has reached its highest form, meaning everything in the form realm is exquisite. Exquisitely beautiful, exquisitely pleasant, exquisitely, but like exquisite according to whom? Remember, we are in lower school. So these realms that we're talking about, they're not self-existent, and they have some natures, right? They are existing things. They are functioning things. They are not just our projections. Are they? No, they are our projections, but they're real. Do you see? The different schools are based on a mindset that believes if things are just my projection, they are less real. In fact, not real at all. They're like a dream. They're like an illusion, right? All the wrong understandings of those words. So we're dancing between the accurate understanding. Yes, this is all by projection, and that's what makes it real. So this form realm, the most exquisite way that form can be, and the beings who find themselves as beings in a place where form is the most exquisite form and pleasure it can be, is a reality for them, and it's still within the suffering realm. So there's still some kind of suffering that happens in this form realm. So we're going to talk about that. Then there's the formless realm. Formless sounds like it means no form at all. And when we first hear about it in next class, it does say, you know, that's a place where the beings there are only mind, not like mind only school, but their entire experience is mental. And they have their own unique kinds of mental afflictions. But you know, you can't have consciousness without something to move the consciousness, some subtle movement. And that subtle movement has to be a material thing. And so it's not that there's no form at all in formless realm. It means that form is at its most minimal, most minimal, as if there's no form. And so we'll see. Formless realm beings, they don't have houses, they don't have chairs, they don't have beds, they don't need them, right? They're minds. And they're still suffering in some unique way. So Dukam is desire realm. Sukham is form realm. Form realm is our topic of consideration. Called the form realm because physical matter here has reached its highest expression. And that means that beings living there are in these temporary paradises. It might be similar to what, like in our cultures, we would say heaven, like living in heaven. The beings there live a long time, thousands of our years. You know, are they aware of sunrise, sunset? I don't think so. They have some other way of measuring time and measuring years. So I don't know if a form realm being would say, I only live to be 100, but their 100, you know, is our 10,000 years. Geshe often equates this pleasure or form realm being to like the Greek gods or the Roman gods, you know, and they're all playing out there. I don't know. Let me like erase that. Forget that. We're going to go there later. But imagine beings who are living in these places that are exquisitely beautiful. And they really have no active suffering going on because everything's so exquisite. It's just pleasure, pleasure, and more pleasure. But because everybody is is experiencing this exquisite beauty, there's no need and no impetus to share it or to, you know, to really even so much interact with others because everything's perfect for you. However, that existence is still, of course, an existence that's driven by seeds ripening, seeds planting, ripening, planting, right? Technically happening simultaneously. And they are in such beauty and pleasure that's being burnt off, but not doing anything to replant. So they are replanting seeds, but the way their seeds are being replanted, they're not replanting more goodness somehow. They seem to be replanting seeds to burn off goodness, which what's going to happen eventually? If you got there because, you know, one seed, we'll talk about what kind of seed, popped at the moment of the death from the life before, that ripened into the details of form realm being, then all the rest of our seeds that could support a form realm are sustaining our life in the form realm. But we're not planting new form realm life seeds. We are planting seeds, but not new form realm life seeds. And so we're going to use them up. Eventually, all those positive seeds for exquisite beauty are going to be dwindling down to the last one. So what they explain is that, life's great, life's great, life's great until the last week or few days. And then the seeds are starting to wear out. I don't quite understand. But apparently that being gets a premonition of what's coming. And then at that same time, their body's making an odor, an ugly odor, which it never did before. It's changing shape and getting unpleasant to look at, which it never was before. So as the goodness seeds are getting fewer, have they burnt off all their seeds? No, just all their seeds for beauty, pleasure, goodness. What's left in their mind stream? Any past selfishness seeds, ugly seeds, is what's left. When these ones wear out, they experience a death. And at the moment of that death, whatever that's like, out's going to pop a projecting karma, and it's going to send them to their next experience. And if they've used up all their goodness seeds, all they've got left is ugliness seeds, and they land themselves in a lower realm. Back in the desire realm, they say most likely in a hell realm. But it could be craving spirit, it could be animal, it could be human, which would still be a lower realm, but a not so bad one. But either way, they've used up this accumulation of form realm goodness that had been made. This form realm has 17 different levels within it. You know what? Let's take our break before we go into this. So I'm going to stop share and pause recording. You get refreshed. Pause. Am I recording on my share? Okay. So this form realm, Sukam, it is said to have 17 different levels. They're called Samten. We've heard the word Samten in our course 3 about meditation. Samten is one of those names for meditation, for concentration. And it's also this word for a level in the desire, in the form realm. So they clarify that this form realm, it's not in our physical world. We can't not get there as humans by climbing the highest mountain or going to the deepest ocean or hanging out in a vortex in Sedona. The form realms are beyond our sensory perception ability. And And yet it is a physical world, and it is said to be above ours. So it leaves this connotation that, if you could look up with a special kind of microscope or telescope, like you'd be able to see into it. But the form of the form realm is beyond the ability of our sensory input to contact it. Similar to, I don't know, an animal that sees in the UV. They see things that we don't see, even as we're looking at the same thing, because their their object, their eyeball, and their eye consciousness work differently than ours do. So this form realm is similar. And yet it is not something that's like 10 galaxies away and to the left either. It's here. We just can't perceive it. Are not perceiving it. Let's put it that way. So it has this 17 levels. Those 17 levels are within these 4 somtens. So it's getting a little confusing. The form realm is made up of 4 concentration levels. And within those 4 concentration levels, there are 17 different ways that the form realm is appearing. So to understand that, we need to understand what seeds make a form realm. When we were studying meditation, we heard that in order to experience emptiness directly, our mind needs to be in the first somten level of the form realm. And that in order to be in the first somten level of the form realm, we would have to be in a state where our sensory perceptions are all shut down. Meaning they may still be picking up sound, picking up color and shape, but our visual consciousness is ignoring it. Because we're so turned interiorly that we have all of our, what would be sensory consciousnesses, focused on our object, our inner meditative object instead. And so no interest in these outer things. That itself is not being in the form realm. So even when they say our mind needs to be in the first level of the form realm to see emptiness directly, it sounds like, well, if my body's still here in the desire realm and my mind is so shut down from its form or its desire realm existence that it could actually go out and go to a form realm. It's like, no, that's not what's happening either. And it gets clarified in Master Kamala Shila's Stages of Meditation text, where he explains what's meant by the causal level of concentration and the actual form level of concentration. So when we are deeply meditating, such that our sensory input is all shut down and we have that clarity and intensity and focus on our meditation object such that there is nothing that will pull us away, and there is nothing that will make us dull, that we are at a level of meditation where the seeds that we're planting during that meditation, if any one of those were to become the projecting karma at the moment of death, would project us into the corresponding Psalm 10 level of the form realm. So as we're meditating in this deep concentration state, we are not doing any kind of desire realm activity, neither with our body nor with our mind. And while we are in that state, we are still planting seeds. And those seeds, any one of which would be a seed that would project us into a form realm. And however many of the goodness seeds that could add to that would keep us there, apparently for a long time. So when they say this 4 different meditative concentration levels that make up 4 levels of the form realm, divided out in such a way that makes 17 different ways that the form realm manifests, it all has to do with the amount of time and the state of mind when we are in meditation. So if we're not meditators in this life, doesn't mean we haven't done these meditations in a previous life. And they could still be what pops at the moment of death. We wouldn't know. But if in this life, we are doing meditations where we are working to shut down the sensory input and reaching that level that's so pleasurable, right? The shamatha with those shinjongs, and staying in this deep state of meditation for long periods of time, enjoying its pleasure and not using that platform of concentration to shift to the insight, the pashyana, then we are planting seeds that could land us in a form realm rebirth. And that would be a delay of our spiritual progress, because in your form realm rebirth, you are not on a spiritual path. There is no concept of spiritual path. Everything's just too pleasurable. And you're using it up. And then it's going to end. And so you could still say they still have pervasive suffering. And their pervasive suffering is so much more subtle than ours is, and ours is incredibly subtle. Until those last few days, and then their suffering becomes very obvious, very immediate. And then that lifetime ends and they start another. So the meditation, the form realm levels are all created by way of these different levels of deep meditation that practitioners get to. If we are not taught that the purpose of our meditation is to reach the platform of concentration from which we turn to our analysis of the empty nature of our object of meditation. So thank you, Geshe Michael, right? This tradition for teaching us from the get-go how to keep our meditation on track so that we don't get sidetracked by the pleasures of meditation that would lead us to a form realm instead of whatever else we're going to have. Right? there are many traditions of meditation trainings over the eons of human life that were about stop your mind, blank your mind, still your mind. Mm. And the amount of time that's spent in that plants the seeds that increases the likelihood of being what ripens at the moment of some death, maybe not even that lifetime. That we hear stories of people that go into meditation and stay in meditation, for days, weeks, months, years, in different traditions. Yeah, and it's admirable. And right, we aspire to that kind of concentration and even think it's miraculous, and it is. But our tradition would say, but it's not going to end suffering. It's not going to end their own suffering, and it's not going to end the suffering of the world. Because it creates form realm lifetime. See? So the form realm, the first sum 10 level, things that the seeds that we plant in the first sum 10 level meditation, if we don't use it appropriately, can create 3 different levels of a form realm experience. 3 different kinds of experience. What they are, I don't know. Then second level sum 10 causal meditation creates the second level sum 10 form realm, and it also has 3 different ways it manifests. Third level sum 10 causal meditation ripens third level form realm, and it too has 3 different levels, or 3 different ways it manifests. And then the fourth level meditative concentration, it has 8 subdivisions. So if we ripen ourselves as a being on the fourth sum 10 level of the form realm, it can be in any one of 8 different circumstances. So when you've got 3 and 3 and 3 and 8, that makes 17. And that's what you need for your homework. 4 sum 10 levels, 4 different depths of meditation, that we only aspire to the first one. Thank you very much. So not to worry about the others. First 3 are 3, fourth one, meaning deepest state of meditation, can create 8 different levels. All right, now you know more about the form realm than you ever wanted to know. And the take home is, you don't need to reach a deeper state of meditation than the causal level of the forced form, right? First out of 17, that should make us feel better. Yeah, maybe I can do that, right? Maybe you're already there. I hope so. So Geshe gave an example of the form realm. He said a being called Brahma is there, and other beings of the form realm, they sit around him, and he's reading the Vedas and they're reciting them along with them. And it's pleasurable, and life is smooth, and it goes on for a long, long time. And then the seeds wear out, You get stinky and ugly and you die. Mm. So while they're there, they are beyond any kind of desire for sensory objects. They are experiencing sensory objects, but it's so pleasure and more pleasure, there's no desire for it. It's hard to conceive of. We see a beautiful sunset, and by the time we've enjoyed it, it's faded. And it's like, wow, that was beautiful. And the implication is, I want it back. I want to see it again. Right? I want to, it's so beautiful, and now it's not. And so we have this constant desire, even while we're experiencing the things that we desire, they don't satisfy the desire. And then they're gone and we're wanting for more. In a not pleasure realm, in the form realm, there's no sense of that. Maybe more like when we're taking things for granted. Like that attitude. Mm. Geshe-la says we can't see a form realm, but he says we can go there. And I'm not sure I'm understanding correctly. But if in our deep meditation, we do actually reach that causal level of the form realm, one could, in that deep meditation, apparently find themselves, as one of those beings sitting around Brahma reciting the Vedas. The take home, though, is that's not something we aspire to do. The only reason to reach the first level of the form realm depth of meditation isn't to actually be there. It's to use that platform of concentration to turn our mind to the empty nature of whatever our meditation object is that we're so focused on. Yeah. Okay, we're learning that. So there are these 17 different levels of nothing but pleasure until it runs out, which is why it's still a suffering world. It's not in the desire realm. Desire realm is another realm within the suffering world, within samsara. So let's talk about dukkha, the desire realm. There are 6 kinds of beings that live in the desire realm. One of them is hell realm beings, hell beings. Ordinarily, most humans can't see hell realm beings. So we can't really know for sure that they exist. And it seems like something that if we grew up in a different religion, which probably had a hell realm, and we rejected that religion, maybe in part because it said, you do this stuff, you're going to hell, so you behave, right? And we took it to mean some kind of, control factor or judgmentism that we rejected. And here we are right back again. It's like, there are hell realms. But it's not that Buddha is saying, I'm going to tell you about hell realms to scare you so that you'll do what I say. Right? Buddha teaches it's up to us to decide whether what he teaches makes enough sense to choose our own behavior. Probably that's what the other teaching was too. But it wasn't so directly carried down through the ages like that. For me, anyway. So here are these hell realm beings, that the reason we're studying it, remember, is that they are our projections, and so they are real, and so we could be one, and so we could not ever be one, and so we can actually stop anybody from being one ever again if there are projections. Not just by wishing it, however. Don't we wish that we could just wish away hell realms? But we can stop them. We can't stop them if we don't know about them. And if we don't know how a being becomes a hell realm being, we don't know how to help them in the life before they're a hell realm being from creating the seeds that could put them there. So we're trying to learn what to do to avoid creating hell realm being myself. And in the process of learning that, we learn how to help other beings not become hell realm beings too. And then we'll also understand what we can do now from here for beings who are hell realm beings now that we can't even access, but we can know about. We can still help them when we know what they need, how to help. All right. We'll learn the detailed characteristics, of hell realms. And the overview is that a hell realm is created by seeds of violence, anger, cruelty, the ignorant desire that propels the choice to hurt somebody before they can hurt me, to hurt somebody, the willingness to hurt somebody, to protect myself or to protect my people, to protect my stuff, is the behavior that plants the seed, that when that seed is the one that ripens at the moment of death, fills in as me being the object of cruelty, hurting, and hurting back as the solution. So the hell being finds themselves beating and being beaten, or burning, or crushing, or all these awful ways that we hurt other beings, that plant seeds in our mind that ripen us into this experience of being treated in that same way and reacting with violence to it. Those hell realms are only possible because we've done the things, not right this life and ever before. They planted the seeds that would ripen as a hell realm. If we had not done those seeds, like ever, or if we'd already purified the ones that we have done and not planted any new ones, we wouldn't be able to have this class on hell realms, would we? Like none of us, there would be no karmic seeds for hell realm. It will happen someday. Meanwhile, so in the hell realm, there are said to be 8 levels of hell. But then they say there's 8 hot hells and 8 cold hells. And like hot hells have 8 levels, cold hells have 8 levels, but they say hell has 8 levels. Seems to me like it's got 16, but no, it's only 8. I don't quite get that math. Again, we'll learn more, unfortunately. Then, so that's one of 6 kinds of beings in the desire realm. What do they desire? For the beating to stop, for the pain to stop. But they have no clue that the way it stops is by caring about the other person that's being beaten. You know, there's this story about Lord Buddha, some previous lifetime, he's a hell being. And his hell is to be pushing a cart full of rocks that's beyond heavy up this really steep mountain. And when he gets almost to the top, all of a sudden he's at the bottom again. And just this constant toil. And I don't know, he's been there for eons. And something triggers him to look to one side. And he sees another guy pushing the cart of rocks up the mountain. And he has this fleeting instant of compassion for the other guy because he knows, right, the pain. And that fleeting instant of compassion for the other guy, and poof, he's gone from the hell realm, right? Shift. What came next, I don't know. But like that, hell realms are projections, and they're very real. Right? The way we get out of hell realm is to have some compassion. But how much compassion can you have when, right, you're being cut up? Remember the king of Kalinka. Must be possible. All right. Next kind of being that makes up the 6 kinds in the desire realm is called craving spirits. I didn't write it. So sorry. Preta. Preta, sometimes called hungry ghost, craving spirit, hungry ghost, Preta being. This is a realm that's characterized by in being incapable of being satisfied in any way. So it's created by seeds of selfishness, stinginess, the kind of pride that means my needs, mine wants are the most important. Not the puffed up pride, I'm better than you, but the kind of pride that me first. And a seed, that kind of seed that becomes the projecting karma at the moment of death, fills in as this kind of lifetime where you can be starving hungry or like dying thirst. And you see this body of water in the distance. So you go running to the body of water. Of course, getting more and more dehydrated and thirsty as you run there. You get to the lake, you throw your face into it to drink the water, and it turns out to be pus and blood, you know, and it's like, and you turn and you look, there's a water over there. Woo, you go right, and it repeats again and again. You see food. You exert this big effort to get the food. By the time you get to the food, it's something you can't eat, something disgusting. There's another kind of being where, because of their unique seed, their throat, like whatever is serves as their esophagus, is like teeny. And they try to eat and the food just won't go down. There's another kind where they can eat, but the food just burns. No matter what they eat, it just burns and destroys their insides, but it doesn't, they don't die. They just experience it again and again. All these selfishness seeds planted in one life ripen into this whole experience of being incapable of getting one's needs met, incapable of any kind of slightest satisfaction. Third kind of being in the desire realm is animals. Oh, finally one I can relate to. And Abhidharma Kosha says that the greatest mass of animals in the desire realm live in the ocean, which means unless we're a diver going down there, we don't really know, what they are and what their suffering is. Now with the underwater drones, they have nature shows that shows living beings that are living in the dark under pressure that would implode us. And here's this little worm that glows in the dark, and it's living its own life. There's so much life in the ocean, and then there's so much life on land and in the air beyond what we can conceive. And all of it, what it is to be an animal, is to be in this state of consciousness of eat or be eaten. So they are a desire realm being that does in fact have in mind nothing but food and sex, which is what characterizes desire realm. And for the animals, that it's like at any moment somebody's going to eat me. And we say, yeah, in the wild, but come on, domesticated animals, pets, they're taken care of. They certainly don't have this eat or be eaten thing. And probably they still have the instinct, they don't have the circumstance. And yet the circumstance they have is to be either be subburdened, right, by humans, or even if they're like the Dalai Lama's pet dog, who must be, pampered beyond belief, it still does not have this capacity to choose new behavior in order to plant the seeds to move it along a spiritual path. It does not have the capacity to use its lifetime in a meaningful way. If that little pampered pooch were left in the wild, it would very quickly be able to hunt and protect itself from being hunted because of its instincts as an animal. So animal realms are on this constant alert for self-protection. We have a component of that in our human beingness as well. So then humans are another of the 6 kinds of beings that inhabit the desire realm. There are 4 kinds of humans. Now here we don't mean Caucasian, Asian, Black, and I don't know what the 4th one would be. We're not talking that. What we're talking about here, according to Abhidharma Kosha, is that our desire realm for humans has 4 different continents, and the beings on each of those 4 different continents are humans, and they have very different characteristics as humans. So when we learn that 37 pile mandala, it talks about the 4 continents. When we do the 7 pile mandala, right? Here are the 4 continents, Mount Meru, right? That we're offering. These are the continents we're talking about. So in the Mount Meru, we're not talking about South America, North America, Asia, Europe. We're talking about Zambuling, right? The name of them is escaping me right now. So we, the humans that we know, are the humans on the southern continent called Zambuling. We have some uniqueness to us, humans on Zambuling, that the others don't quite have. We have this perfect opportunity. They have good opportunity, but not perfect opportunity, the way humans on southern continent have. But they're all called humans. I don't know more. We'll have a whole class on humans and the sufferings that are unique to them. The 5th of the 6 kinds of beings of the desire realm are called pleasure beings. Sometimes called deva, that's Sanskrit. Hla is the Tibetan. Deva and hla, they mean angel or God. And it's easily misunderstood, first because of the Western tradition of thinking, what do they mean by God? And if we translate it instead of God, we translate it as angel, well, then it's like, oh, do they mean messenger of God, right? Which is not a fully enlightened being. They're on their own evolutionary track. Like, it gets confusing. And then it gets further confusing because they use this term, deva or hla, for beings in the form realm, and they use it for these higher realm beings in the desire realm. So when we see the word deva or hla, we need to make sure that we understand the context in which the word is being used. When we use the word, we want to be sure we're using it accurately. And yet the words are still kept and still used because they do give this connotation of a being that's different enough from humans that by using those words, we're making this designation. We're not talking about a human being. Deva. Hla. These beings, they can be confused. When we're learning about them, it sounds like they're not really any different than the form realm beings. Because here is a level of beings still in the desire realm where their life experience is nothing but pleasure. And they have no impulse to share it. They have no reason to think they need to perpetuate it. From their perception, it's going to go on forever. And yet they have the same situation where they're using up the good seeds that created them as that. And in the last few days to a week, when they don't have those good seeds anymore and negative ones are starting to ripen, they stink and get ugly, and everybody around them goes, yeah, right? And they're left all by themselves and down to a hell realm they go. So the story is the same for pleasure being in the desire realm as for beings in the form realm, but they are not synonymous, and they are not in the same place, right? Pleasure beings of the desire realm are in the desire realm. form realm is not anywhere in the desire realm, and yet, right, it's here. Okay. Along with these pleasure beings of the desire realm, there are almost pleasure beings in the desire realm. They're called jealous gods, asuras, suras and asuras. I'm not, let's call this. Which means that they're the seeds that ripen them as a pleasure being, but not quite, right, are a little less virtuous. Well, that I would get slaughtered on the debate ground for that. A little less kind of kindness than a full-on pleasure being. So they describe the asuras as being jealous of the pleasure beings, meaning they're ripening a really pleasurable place, but when they are aware of the pleasure beings, what the pleasure beings have is just a little bit nicer than what they have. And they still have these seeds for the mind to go, hey, how come that's not mine? And they say they fight. I don't quite get that. How can you fight as a pleasure being? But maybe that's why fighting in the human realm can be considered a good thing. I don't know. But the jealous gods and the pleasure beings fight with each other. And of course, they're making negative seeds as they do that. So the jealous gods are initiating these negative seeds. I don't know, the whole thing eventually wears out and they all go boom. So neither realm is a realm that we would aspire to reach, because it's not outside the desire realm, and it's not a lifetime in which we have the inclination at all to change our behaviors to make different seeds. Even apparently, as the jealous gods are fighting with the pleasure beings, it never occurs to them that there's something wrong with this picture until they wear out those seeds. Okay. All right. And then the the sixth kind of desire realm being is bardo beings. Bardo, we know, means the in-between. We tend to think of it as in between one life and the next, and that is exactly what it means. But the period of time is between the death of this life and the beginning of the next life. So it's a very specific experience. It takes time. It takes seed shifting time for the death process to end and the conception and birth of the next life to happen. And when we get to that class, it describes why that must be true. And part of it has to do with the fact that we are not reborn in the same location as we died, right? Or you would die in your bed at home and then you'd be reborn in your bed at home. And it's like, I don't think that's logical, but that's the argument that's given. It must take time to get someplace new. We'll see. So if we were omniscient, we would recognize that this desire realm, then with its 6 different beings, actually has 20 different levels, 20 different parts. because they say there are 10 lower births that one can take and 10 higher births that one can take. And when we say lower and higher, of course it means lower than what, higher than what. So another way they describe it is 10 bad births and 10 good births. But those words, good and bad, it means 10 births, the bad births are unpleasant births, and the 10 good births are pleasant births, but none of them are pleasant because they're all in the desire realm, and that means there's all suffering. Okay, so the 10 lower births are any one of the 8 hells, of which it seems like there's 16, but 8, any one of the 8 hells, the craving spirit realm, of which there are many different variations, but they're not called different levels or different parts somehow, and animals. Okay. Animals, craving spirits, hell realm. It makes 10 because there's 8 different kinds of hells. Got it? 10 different lower births. 10 higher births are the 4 different kinds of humans according to the different continent, and 6 kinds of pleasure beings of the desire realm. So in that pleasure being realm with the jealous gods, there's 6 different levels of pleasure that you could be surrounded by. Pleasure, more pleasure, I don't know. But 6 of those. So 6 and 4 makes 10. 8 and 2 makes 10, math class. And that gives us these 20 different parts of the desire realm. You have a question. Why is it called the desire realm? And the basic motivation in all of the desire realm, all of those 20 different parts, is food and sex. Apparently, the underlying motivation to do anything is to get fed and to procreate. The characteristic of the desire realm is that we can have thoughts which are harmful deeds that make harmful karma, negative karma. Just our thoughts is enough to make the karma that perpetuates the desire realm. Form realm doesn't have this. They don't have the kind of desire that pushes the thoughts that makes everything suffering. It still has thoughts, and it still perpetuates suffering, perpetuates plant seeds that will create suffering in the future. In the form realm, there's no need for this desire for food and sex. So there's none of that motivation, which is what makes it different than the desire realm, even the desire realm for the pleasure beings. So then, last thing, in those form realms where we said there's 17 different levels, the highest level of the form realm is called Okmin. So this is just a vocabulary lesson because we'll hear the term Okmin used in a different context, and Geshe-la wants us to understand that the same word is used, but with these different meanings, different connotations. Ok means below, min means nothing below. So ok min means below none. We usually hear it as the heaven below none, Oakman. And when it's used in that connotation, what it means is when a being is so close to their final total enlightenment that they're in that space ready to make that final transformation, they will be in the heaven below none. They will be in Oakmin. Your almost a Buddha's Oakmin will be unique to you. Mine will be unique to me. They aren't a single place where you need a reservation to go. They will be the place that's manifesting your goodness, from which you will manifest your full Buddhahood. Heaven below none. It's not your Buddha paradise, because your Buddha paradise, right, it'll have a different name. It'll still be exquisite, but Oakman is the place that you get enlightened. But do you see how the words would give the wrong connotation if we didn't get the whole explanation? Then Oakman is also the name for this highest level of the form realm, because there's, right, it's below none. But the Oakman of the form realm has nothing to do with getting enlightened. It has everything to do with extraordinary pleasure, but it's not the Oakman from which the beings who are living at that level are making their Buddhahood come about. You don't reach Buddhahood from a form realm. And yet they use the term below none. See, it makes sense. But don't mistake it for the Oakman that is the environment from which you reach your total enlightenment. All right, so all of these realms, the reason we're learning about them is so that we can better understand how our behavior creates the seeds that ripen as our circumstances of me in my world, so that we can put together a more accurate picture of behavior choices and why to make them, both for ourselves and how we become a being who helps others do the same. We learn it for ourselves. We train ourselves in that behavior change. People will be influenced. Other beings will be influenced. They will benefit from your greater kindness. They will eventually ask you about it. And we teach, we share. All right. Class 1. Read the readings about form realm, desire realm. As you do, when you feel bad about it, purify. I didn't know any better when I made those seeds. Now I do. I'll do the best I can. I'll finish my homework as my antidote. Woo! Okay. I'll rejoice that I did it. I'll try to be extra kind in this particular circumstance as my power of restraint. And, I'm going to change my seeds. All right. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help. We've learned a lot. You may never sit them down and tell them about form and formless realm. That's okay. But because of what we've learned, our behavior will change. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness, and may it be so. All right, thank you again for the opportunity to share. Please let me see your homeworks and quizzes. And I will see you. This is Sunday. We meet Thursday evening, right? Thursday. See you Thursday. Have a great week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.